Hello everybody. I might regret not having a selfie stick with me because this is going to be a bit painful on my arms to keep like this. Behind me is Clee Hill and Brown Clee Hill, and I can't work out right now where it is. It's going to be somewhere over here. I go up there. I also come up this hill, which is called Wharton. There's another hill over there called Clent. But I like this one because it's a bit less visited than the others. And I like hills because you get a perspective on life by coming up higher. It's true, if you're going to do hypnosis with somebody and take them down to a deep level, you would get that individual to be separated from the trauma and the dysfunction of what happened. And so for me, coming up high, doing what I do, which is dealing with people with lots of problems, challenges, issues, it gives me that perspective, and I can look down on the world, and my life, everybody else's life seems so insignificant and so small, and in reality it is. But when we're experiencing these things, it feels much worse. We see it through our own eyes, we feel it, we hear it, taste and even smell it in a bad way. Up here on August the 13th last year, a 21-year-old man decided to fulfill a lifelong ambition of murdering someone. I only found this out a week or 2 weeks ago. And this is a beautiful spot up here. I went with my mother actually 3 years to the day on August the 13th, 2017 to Brown Clee Hill. I've only ever been once. I normally go to what's called Titterstone Clee Hill, which is 1,749 feet high. And it's very beautiful. Brown Clee is about 10, 15 feet higher. But a 70-year-old man who was out walking, who used to walk a lot in Brown Clee, went out that day. A 20-year-old or a 21-year-old man decided, after living rough in hedges for 4 days with a combat knife, to attack and kill. And he did that. And it's well, I don't think there are any words. He had Asperger's, he had a private education, and he's going to spend the next 30 years inside, in jail. And the harm that he has done to this man's wife, the children, grandchildren. Haven't spoken about it too much, but when I was a child in this area, this place, I was brought up in a little village really called Hadley, Hagley. When in 1988, January, when I was 13 and a half, a young boy named Stuart Goff was abducted, raped, and murdered. And it still affects this community to this day. That man is now out. His name was Victor Miller, or is Victor Miller. He'd asked to remain inside. I believe he's now out. He could bump into Stuart's mum, Jean, knock on a door, bump into the supermarket. Jeff, the father, developed Parkinson's disease, which is a lack of joy being in somebody's life and a needing to be so controlling, which was brought on by the trauma of that. the work that I do, which is helping people to heal, works a lot at being able to make a difference in people's lives with this stuff, but the damages that some do to others and carry on as if it's okay, the ramifications of that are, I don't know the word to use for that. It's beyond enormous. But I recognize that equally we have the capability to do good in the world. And I know through the work that I've been able to do over the years, in the last 15 years, just the little bit of work that I do creates a positive ripple. And so I can be working with one client, but their children are going to heal as a result of me working with them, or their husband, or their brother, or their mother. And so you need to realize that it works two ways. And we're all saints and sinners at the end of the day. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I do my best, take responsibility, but I'm still pretty messed up. I went through the most dysfunctional upbringing you could possibly imagine. It was phenomenally neglectful, violent, abusive. My older brother won't speak to my family anymore. He's cut himself off. We've all struggled, particularly us boys. My sister less so because she was wanted. I wasn't a wanted child. My mum wanted a girl and I had disappointment. And so I was neglected. And a lot of my dysfunction has come from being chronically neglected. And I have to deal with that every single day. And it shows up in my life, and it showed up in my personal relationships. It shows up in my health. The violence that went on, how it affected me. I mean, my father punched all of us in the face and made our noses bleed. But we are talking the 70s and the 80s, and we know that it's not the right way to discipline a child anymore. And the healing I've done on that is phenomenal, but there's still way to go. And I have to honor that because it's part of me. And I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do and help people like I help people, which gives me such joy, if I hadn't gone through that childhood. And I wouldn't have what I've learned if I hadn't gone through it. There's a saying that everyone's where they're meant to be. Everyone's journeying through what they need to journey through, and I don't know how it all works. Are we souls, all experiencing these things for the higher good? Maybe. Maybe. But when I look at those throughout the ages, Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Prophet Muhammad, any of the spiritual teachers now who are around, and there's an abundance of them. I think I've mentioned them before. Eckhart Tolle, Mooji, Gangaji, Thich Nhat Hanh, John Butler alike, Tony Samara, Adyashanti, Anita Moorjani, Marianne Williamson, Neil Donald Walsh, Ram Dass, Amma. I could go through every single Enneatype and give you a highly evolved example of each one. What have I missed out? Oh, for an Enneatype 8, highly evolved Enneatype 8, Eli Jackson Bear. So within all of those spiritual teachers is an Enneagram type. And we can evolve out from this pain and this suffering, and I don't know, maybe we're We're destined to be on these paths. Maybe mine was destined. Maybe I chose to be in such a dysfunctional childhood to learn lessons, and I wouldn't be able to... Like, I've been writing a book for nearly 13 and a half years. It'll be 14 years in June. I've put over 10,000 hours into it. At some point it will be written. That's the hardest thing, or at least one of the hardest things I've had to do on my journey. And I've had to do it. I can't back away from it. It's inside of me. It wishes to be born. Not that I want to do it. If anything, I've blocked it. I haven't wanted to deal with it. Wanted to have a normal life, whatever the hell that is. And it just, I can't get away from it because it's inside of me and it wishes to be born, wishes for it to be alive, it wishes to express itself, and it's the divine expressing itself from within or through me. Maybe it's both. So looking out to these hills that I've often done and gone up to them, and now knowing that there's something that's changed that. There's a different quality to it now. The fact that I can look up and all the peace and the tranquility. To know that a man doing what I'm doing right now, coming into nature, being, was murdered. In the isolation and beauty. We're all incredibly powerful beings. We can either create hell, which is what that individual did, or we can create heaven. And that's down to your responsibility and what you wish to do.